while in prison. So in losing my freedom, I discovered my freedom. And when I became the frequency of peace, and it didn't matter my surroundings, what mattered was my inner surroundings. When I became so peaceful, regardless of the circumstances, it wasn't about the money, it wasn't about what I lost, what I would gain, whatever. I was free inside of my own body, and because I had the frequency of joy doing everything I loved to do as a child.
Welcome to the I Don't Believe in Astrology podcast. The podcast is dedicated to conscious souls looking to change the world. Astrologer by day, climate activist by night. Here is your host, Debra Silverman.
It's really exciting. Yeah. We're the first time I've ever done a stand-up podcast, just to say.
That I have a desk that has no chair.
That's it.
So we're standing up.
That's it.
And it's a podcast.
It's a podcast. My name is Debra Silverman. It's a I Don't Believe in Astrology podcast, which before you met me, did you believe?
No.
See?
Yeah.
Perfect. He didn't believe. And today we're going to do...
And then sometimes when people talk astrology, I still don't believe, but I believe you.
That's the point.
That's the thing. I believe you. You're not just clicking buttons.
I'm not just pulling shit out of the air. Yeah. So I just want to say out loud, this is a podcast that is going to be interviewing Garrain Jones, who, how do you describe, I always ask the people to describe themselves.
Yeah.
How would you?
My name is Garrain Stefan Jones, and my mission in this world is to create a space where the little kid inside of the adult is actually happy.
That's why I knew I liked you.
Give me any
kid
platform.
Inside of yourself is actually happy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's ultimately what I'm about. Everything that I create comes from how can this support the little kid inside of the adult to actually be happy?
Just makes me so happy. I'm just going to start with a little astrology lingo. I've told you this before. Jupiter, the biggest planet in the heavens, like imagine 100 times the size of Earth. You can't. Standing right next to your Mercury, how your mind works. You've got Jupiter, Santa Claus, this big fatso. He's loud, he's funny, and he sits right on your mind in Leo, the artist. How am I doing? So your way of communicating is so funny. He's funny, he's creative. You should see the space we're in. Who stands up when they're doing a podcast? That's kind of what you do. You break the boundary and you let yourself do whatever you want in the name of joy. That's Jupiter
Amen.
And Mercury in Leo conjunct, which we're going to show you in a moment. So let's back it up. You didn't start off helping people's child come out and be happy, because what was your childhood?
I was trying to have me be happy.
And they weren't letting that
And
happen.
every time I would sing, I would hear shut up. I get kicked out of school. Shut up. You're too loud. You're too much. You're too this. You're too that. And I can distinctively remember being so small, and my mom, through no fault of her own, she just did what she knew. But she was like, clothes, you can't, those clothes don't match. You can't wear your hair like that. You can't. And I remember one day I got so pissed off. I was like, Mom, ask me if I love it. You never asked me if I love it. Because no one ever, they always told me what was good and what wasn't good. But no one ever asked me, hey, what do you love?
So plan B, your Aquarius rising, the soul, the rising sign, the time of your birth, is a non-traditionalist who cannot follow. And they have the best style. Why? Because they're originals. So listen, look at this thing. This is so, everything about him is so Aquarius. So he's got the joy factor, but he's got this rebellious, non-willing to conform, don't care. You had to fight for your own will.
Absolutely.
The whole time. Yeah. But it didn't bend. That's the part. And then your moon's in Libra, so you're really trying to be gentle. Said the little Cancer.
Yeah, no, I always knew when I was like little and I'd get in trouble for breaking into cars and homes and just like, and people would call me bad. I always knew. I was like, but there's something else controlling me. I don't even want to do this. I always felt, because if somebody would smash a bug, it would hurt my heart. Like, it was like these little sentimental things. And I was like, no, don't do that. Don't bully that person. Don't beat up that person. There's always something that So
And
I
what
knew
drove you
that there
to
was a
listen- But how
difference.
did you get to the crying part? Like, what compelled you to break into the car? Or what was the, I mean, you have to remember, like, this is a very interesting conversation because one of the things about Garrain that's blown my mind, is I've read your book, and I've had the privilege of working with you, is that this is so Aquarius, you've broken out of the mold of what your culture would have expected of you.
Absolutely.
Everywhere you were programmed, you were like, no.
Yeah.
And you kept throwing it off.
Yeah.
And so it gave you the liberation, but at the same time must have been very alienating.
Yeah,
So
I
feeling
think
different.
one of the greatest things I ever unconsciously did is didn't allow myself to get binded inside of like the culture of school norm, the culture of home norm,
Right.
the culture of society norm.
Aquarius.
And when I was little, I'm like, I'm an outcast. People would call me alien. And the only people that wanted to hang out with me were people who got in trouble a lot.
Oh, I
So
see.
naturally, you do the sum total of the people that you hang out with the most. So I just didn't naturally want to do it. It
were
was the
in that-
people who took me in, I did what they did.
Got it. Okay,
Yeah.
can we show them your chart? Can you pull it up? Because that's what they're
Absolutely.
wondering right now.
Okay. Here is my chart.
Okay, and they can all see it? You've shared the
Yeah,
screen?
they can all
So
see it.
this is the, I'm going to point. This is the Aquarius. It's Aquare is us. That's the name of the sign.
Okay.
Aquarius. Your soul could not follow. You were like uniquely, individualistically, not, and it's an air sign. So you're like, don't put me in a box. I'm going to throw up. I'm going to hurt somebody. But you're so kind because your sun's in Cancer and you have this very gentle, like you're such a, you see everybody's kiddo. Cancers are like the mom and dad of the world.
Mm,
And then Aquarius is the exotic person that cannot follow. And then I talked about, see, there's Mercury with the hat on his head.
yeah.
And that's Jupiter. It looks like a 4, like 4 times bigger than everything.
Yep.
And that's the part that gives you this exuberant communication style that honestly, when you talk, I can't believe the level of drama that you are capable, one, of remembering these stories. We're going to stop sharing, but just notice Sun in Cancer, Moon in Libra, Aquarius rising with Jupiter conjunct Mercury, and this very gentle Sun in Cancer in the house of the drama. He does story time. There's something about the way you elicit our kid, the way you make it safe for me to be a little crazy. Like, let's
Yeah.
go back to that. So how did we meet? This is the strangest story.
Well,
This is a great story. I walk into his house.
yeah, you walk into my house.
He
and-
smells me. He's very intuitive. You could feel him. He kind of goes inside his body. Cancers feel people like it's a visceral experience. I could feel your antennas on. Whoop.
Yeah, I just because I don't just look at hear what somebody says. I can feel what they're not saying. I can feel their agendas. I can feel their ulterior motives. I can feel so many different dimensions that's housed inside of the human body, and it's just like my body just feels it, and it'll send a physical signal, yes or no.
Just
And
like that.
instantly it was a yes.
So, and then the story got better because then we just encountered it. It was kind of a random circumstance. I was in Austin, didn't know why I was here, was
Yeah.
following my intuition, which was really unlike me because I
Yeah.
am very ritualistic. I arrive at his house and then we're standing out at this he's got this beautiful home overlooking a waterfall with all, and then I say to him out of the blue, tell me about your grandma.
You said there was like a lady over my shoulder or something like that.
Because I saw her.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, I was like, no, that's my ancestor that's assigned to me. And I didn't even know that it was her birthday that day.
exactly.
Yeah, like my mom was like, Big Mama's birthday is today. I was like, oh, interesting. That even makes even more sense.
She showed up. And so that was the original connection, was your antenna system, me passing that test.
Yeah.
Then me activating one of your biggest followers or real
Yeah.
support systems.
Yep.
And we just had a great conversation. The next thing I knew, we were having dinner with his unbelievable wife, who has done level 1, 2, and soon to do 3. She's
Mhm.
now becoming an astrologer. And we had this amazing conversation that went stellar.
Yeah.
Like it lifted us up.
Yeah,
So
it was a beautiful conversation.
this is how we bonded, and then he came and worked with me in Hawaii. So all that is to say, synchronicity and chemistry and timing of your grandmother's birthday, of the birth of your baby boy, who I get to be the godmother too. I'm
Yeah.
so honored. Like the level of our connection. So we're
Yeah.
sharing that with you, and
And
now
then also that's the same day, which was Soul's Libra's birthday or
it was
something
exactly
like
that's right.
that.
That's right. It was on her solar birthday. The actual thing in the heavens was happening that day. I know this is all.
Yeah.
We had a lot. So when that happens in life, when synchronicity shows up with so many stamps of somebody working on it, or why is this all happening? Then you stop and pause. I've really learned this.
But we're not even done because then all of a sudden I was like, wait a second. Blair had spoken to a lady named Tony, and she said, "You're not going to move from this house, but there's going to be another house. Just it's something that is clearly blue. It's going to be like a blue door. It's like something that's blue, like a blue. Just keep your eye out for blue. So remember the name Blue, right? And it's another house. All of a sudden, my friend Blue calls me out of the blue." Brings Deborah, who I have no idea who that is. We literally have a blue door. So Blue calls me out of the blue, brings Deborah through a blue door, and Deborah starts reading our house. You can't make this shit up. Like, and I'm just like, this makes sense to me.
Right.
So it was like blue, 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 blue house. I'm like, what are these things? Oh, this is your house in Libra and house in.
Right.
I'm like, oh, and there's a blue. Yeah,
Blue
yes.
is the connection. So one of your gifts this life, this is what I want to speak to, is you have the gift as an Aquarius rising of following the dots or letting yourself be willing
Yeah.
to be like a kid, like an openness. But can you explain it? What part of you feels so safe telling the story about how your life was not easy? Let's start there. So the beginning of your life was the culture you were raised in, and as you described.
Yeah. No, I lived out of my car for 2.5 years, and I was just right under, I always say $250,000 in debt, but it was right under $250,000 in debt. I was an ex-convict. I was in jail for over 2 years, and just like, just every time I'd rise up, it was like something would knock me back down. And I remember being a little kid saying, I want to be a superhero. I want to be stronger than the average man. I want to have abs like an action figure, and I want to save and change lives all over the world. And in the moment, as we connect the dots looking backwards, see, I love connecting the dots. I love
That's
puzzles.
what I just said.
I've
Yes.
always loved puzzles. And so in the moment, it can seem like, oh, hard life, hard life, hard life, hard life. But if you look at the whole span of my life, I'm stronger than the average human. I have abs like an action figure, and I save and change lives all over the world. I literally manifested what I always identified
Right.
myself with.
You're a creator.
And I've never seen a superhero not have to overcome hard things in order to assume their power. And so I was like, wait a second. When I was a little kid, when I used to say, God, why does it feel like I'm living 15, 20 different people's lives? And then every single time I overcame a certain aspect of my life, now you look how I can, the people that are attracted to the wavelength that I'm producing is many different kind of people who had a similar imprint to a certain aspect of my life. So it was almost like their ripple effects of my transformational change, but people listen to who they relate to. So I attract all the different ways and variables in which I transformed through different means of people.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Here's one of my questions in light of that. So what you don't know is, I'd love you to tell the story about how you got caught at the border, ended
Yeah.
up in prison in France, thinking that you were carrying drums across the border to make
Yeah.
some money.
Oh no, they weren't drums. They were just filled with stuff.
Right, but people, you thought they were
Yeah.
drums, but
Yeah.
you didn't know what exactly they were filled with.
Right.
And after 5 trips, and it was like $5,000, why do I
7
remember all
trips,
this?
yeah.
And then suddenly they stop you,
Yeah.
open up the drum, and find out there was
6.2 kilos of heroin.
heroin in his car.
The most anti-drug person ever. Still to this day, I'll be 45 in a couple of weeks. Never had a sip of alcohol in my life. And for me to be the most anti-drug person, to be busted for drugs, facing a 12-year sentence because of my greed, because I want money, I want more. And I was in the height of my modeling career, but checks didn't come right away. Like I would do a job and then 4 months later a check would come. I was like, I need money now. And so I got the opportunity to drive these cars over a border, connected with these people. It's almost like when you're in there, when you are surviving, but also when you are when you allow your ego to drown you, it blinds you from logically seeing so many other things. So I was so hungry. I was like, oh, money, 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 money. All I can think about is money. It blinded me from the fact that I have a daughter who's 22. She was just born, that I was about to book this movie, that I was about to be the next MTV VJ. There was like so many things on, like right there. And I chose greed over patience. And in that,
greed over patience, and that's where.
And that was the crack in the foundation that ultimately led me to serving a 12-year sentence, but I got out in 2.5 years though.
But don't you think that was destiny operative? Like do you feel like there was free will? Like you had the option to not
I think there's
do
a
that?
combination. I think that there's several realities going simultaneously. And I think that what you're in control, like what's destiny is destiny. And if it doesn't happen to you, then it passes on to your kids. And most people are unaware. What was meant for me was always going to be meant for me. But what I have control over is the duration of time.
Right.
So I wouldn't listen. And so
they had a scream
sometimes you'll get a hit and you don't listen, then you get a hit, then it gets louder, and then all of a sudden you get a car crash or the breakup. Something is clearly trying to get your attention. And I've been hard-headed my whole entire life.
Aquarius, your soul's fixed.
Yeah.
That's the good news, and didn't mean you could conform, but the bad news is sometimes you didn't listen.
Yes.
But my point is, don't you think that was destined? Because here's the story that they don't know. So you've got a 12-year sentence.
Yeah.
Then they come into your cell. This is the part I want to relive.
Yeah.
They come into your cell after how many years have you been there?
2.5.
And you've taught these men how to run because they're living inside of a prison.
I was doing everything that I loved to do as a child. And I want to make sure of that.
That's right. This was the message.
Because before I went into prison, I felt more like I was in prison when I was free than I did while I was in prison. It was like
all between your ears.
Yeah. And so when I was in prison, I was like, oh my goodness, I know why I'm here. Because when I was free, I used to say, I'm so far away from where I'm supposed to be. I feel like I'm in prison inside of my own body. And I was in prison, far away from where I'm supposed to be. And then I said, if I can think myself in prison, by the way, you don't have to be in prison to be in prison. You can be in a relationship you don't want to be in,
or
and you stay in it, or a job and you stay in it, you don't want it, and you get paid less than your value, and that in itself is prison. Now back to our regularly scheduled programming. And I said, what did I used to love to do I said, I'm free. If I can think myself in prison, then in that case, I'm a free man. What would a free man do? What would a free person do? And a voice goes, everything you used to love to do as a child that made you the most happy. And I'm like, what did I used to love to do? I used to love to do my art, and I stopped. I used to love running, and I stopped. I used to love motivating people, and I stopped. I used to love singing, and I stopped. And so while I was in prison, I started doing everything I used to love to do as a child. I had never felt more free. I had never felt more joyful, happy while in prison. So in losing my freedom, I discovered my freedom. And when I became the frequency of peace, and it didn't matter my surroundings. What mattered was my inner surroundings. When I became so peaceful, regardless of the circumstances, it wasn't about the money, it wasn't about what I lost, what I would gain, whatever. I was free inside of my own body, and because I had the frequency of joy doing everything I loved to do as a child. And I look up and I'm inspiring people with my singing. They're bringing joy. I'm inspiring people with my art. I'm motivating people. I learned Braille and fluent French just so I can motivate people. It wasn't that I wanted to lose. I just wanted to be able to communicate with them. And I started running. There's people, less fights, less drug deals, less people.
They started running.
Yeah, less people stabbing each other. And within 30 days, it was 60-something inmates running with me. I never felt more free in my life. Interesting, when I felt the most free, they called me into the office, which they had no reason to. They had already tested those drugs 3 times, 6.2 kilos of heroin. They called me into the office and they said, we retested the drugs. 90% was fake. And for the amount that was real, you've already done the time. You're free to go home.
Is it true? Was it true? Or was that God's will?
What I believe is the same thing that happens when a woman gets pregnant. It's inside the womb and it grows too big for the womb. And then what is produced is birth. I think there was a womb.
That's what I'm
for
talking
prison.
about.
I think there was a prison was the womb. But what the level of love and discipline and self-respect that I was giving myself, regardless, I wasn't in shame or worthiness or insecurity. I had forgiven myself for all these negative things that I had done, and I wrote a list of all the lies that I told other people and told myself, and I really became free. And I think that my energy body was too big for my physical self, and then what I was inspiring in other people to choose inner liberation, the energy was too big for the space.
And they wanted you out of there. Just kidding.
Yeah.
And then wasn't
And then
it
I
true?
got out.
And wasn't it true that your mom never told anybody?
My mom was afraid to tell people because I was like this poster child that was
Success
on music videos. So like, what's it like? Oh, he's in prison for drugs.
On
Like, wait,
Guess
what?
Magazine, you were on all these magazine covers,
Yeah.
and he
Yeah.
was like the perfect child of what everyone wished they would be. And then he went down to come back up. And now you have the formula, and part of what your life's work is,
Yeah.
that's what they don't know yet, is, and I get to go this week, is
Yeah.
to watch you teach your workshops.
Oh yeah.
And you can see, this is what I think the hard part of listening to the story is. Aquarius Rising, Sun in Cancer. He's an advanced, you know who has the same combination? Lady Di. She's a Cancer with Libra Aquarius.
Mm.
And look at her passion was children. Her whole thing in life was trying to help the kids, which is the same thing you're doing. Ha ha, ding, ding, ding. But the point of that is the level of as an audience listening to you, we can separate ourselves because it seems like you're such an anomaly. Like, how did you get that optimism? How did you get the discipline? What was the voice that talked to you? How do you continue to manifest with this much chi? So what, if you had to describe at the core of what motivates you, or who's...
Well, I'll tell you this. Every single person watching this has had one time or another where it's like, I don't know, something told me. I don't know, a little voice inside. I don't know, something told me. Or I was just thinking about Rob and he just called me. Let's just say that that's the gagagoogoo of manifestation, or that's the gagagoogoo of being the creator of your own reality, and you don't even realize it because you can't see the picture while you're in the frame. But if you actually invest more time in practicing that muscle over and over and over, like a little kid getting up, falling down, maybe if you start thinking of some other names and being really quiet and being really intentional about it, and then saying it over and over and over, and then all of a sudden they call you and you're like, wait, hold on, that wasn't an accident. What if there are no coincidences and vibrationally this plastic universe is only matching you? So I just started picking up on patterns. And the pattern was, every time I do this, this happens. Every time I try to brag about something, I get hurt. Every time I'm gossiping and talking shit about somebody else, weird stuff happens in my life.
Good.
It's energy.
Yes.
And Nikola Tesla literally said, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. So what was that powerful that in the right vibrational readiness in my body in 2002, 2005, what was that powerful that in the vibrational readiness, it rewrote the human narrative, reverse engineered how the world showed up. Whatever they did, they tested those drugs 3 times. It created another reality. So since 2005, I've invested so much time, effort, energy, money, travel, studying to figure out about the codes of frequency, vibration, and energy. So when I hear things, I hear all the levels, even how you're talking right now. You can hear one voice, but the harmonics is 3 voices on side that's actually making the one voice. I can hear all of them simultaneously because it's a practice of mine that I've been doing for so many years.
So is there a way for us to be able to catch up? Because when I listen to you, I feel like I get taller. And
Yeah.
I feel like my ears get bigger.
Yeah.
And I feel like my G starts to activate.
Yes.
So if you were to give us a directive of how we can live in the space and the
Yeah.
vibration, the frequency, was there a formula? Is there...
Absolutely. 4 things.
Okay, ready, go.
Ready. Number 1, build your physical body. Not for muscles, not for abs, not to lose weight, not to gain weight, but to have a very strong foundation.
I love this.
I travel all over the world and I come in contact with certain channels and guides and everything. When they stop channeling and they go into their human body is so broken, they stuff it with chocolate and cakes and everything because they don't know how to handle that. Their human body doesn't know how to handle that
The
information.
frequency has to
So
come
when
from the
you
temple.
go away, the physical body is the structure that holds. It's like the house doesn't become a home without the energy in it. So the foundation of the house, so when you actively go out and work out and you're like, no, this is not for muscles.
I understand exactly what you're saying.
But I'm speaking for them out
No,
there.
but I understand, because
Yeah.
this is the message I want the collective to
Yeah.
hear. That the respect of the temple is at the base note.
Yes.
And I think we forget we're in a temple because the body's so dense and
Yeah.
it's so hungry and it's
Yeah.
so needy and it
Yes.
gets fat and then it gets old. So
Yeah.
all of that is conversations that this man with Jupiter on his Mercury, he does not limit. You keep refreshing and in motivating yourself. So we're inviting everyone to consider, like,
Yeah.
you've really, for me in this lifetime, why I'm not aging as a normal person should, because look how old I am, is because I've respected this temple every single day.
Yeah.
I go on my electric bikes where you saw me,
Yeah.
and I go in the ocean, and I make sure every single day that this temple, I mean, it's not easy, because the temptation is to go the low road.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to get out from the low road. And once you start gaining weight and you get
Especially
tired,
if you don't have a community.
and that's so important, which is why I'm so happy to be at your house. Okay, what's number 2?
So number 2 is raise your vibration. So listening to your favorite song, maybe meditating, maybe listening to theta brain waves for like 5 minutes a day, which is the state that you're
Oh, I
in.
love this.
The state that you're in when you go to sleep. But if you do it while you're awake, what it'll do is send a signal to your body to open up. And then when you open up and start creating, thinking and creating the capacity for your ideas, the place where your ideas are held, it opens up the safer you feel in your body. So if you just send theta brain waves while you're awake, it's the signal.
Okay, is there a way to do that online? You can go find theta.
Just look up any theta brain wave.
Okay, good.
6
So the
minutes.
vibrational activity of
The
being,
frequency, yes.
making your, okay, 3.
Yeah. So but you can dance for 5 minutes. This is why, like,
Just
you
to
can
change the
be
frequency.
feeling so bad, and all of a sudden I just need to go out and dance, and all of a sudden time, you're not thinking about time, you're not thinking about the date, you're not thinking about anything, because you actually transcend time, because the frequency of song codes inside of your vibrational awareness.
Oh,
And then that's why you transcend and you just literally leave the space.
that's so interesting. Who
Because
knew?
song was like the original language. It's not like the English language. It was drumming, it was movement, it was sound. It was like, huh, and ha, before, hello, how are you doing today? So when the language we're using right now is the furthest thing from the truth, because the vibration emits a frequency, and then they give us words that are coded with another
That's
frequency.
why every near-death experience and everyone that goes to the other side, they don't use words. It's all telepathic. The message comes through with the genuine accuracy and because we got to be coherent. You're very coherent. Okay, so the vibration has to be opened and activated. And what's the
Yeah,
fourth
raise
one?
your no, that's number
Raise
2.
vibration.
Yeah, build your physical
Temple,
body.
yes.
Raise your vibration. Cultivate a daily practice of meaningful disciplines.
I love this.
It's like healthy smoothie in the morning.
Yes.
Like whatever your diet is, whatever you're listening to, who your
Tell them,
friends,
this is brilliant.
who your friends are, like what you're watching on TV. If it takes your energy down, that is not meaningful. If it makes you feel good and you're in conversation and it doesn't feel draining, It's like you're cultivating a daily practice of meaningful disciplines. All this
I love
goes
it.
and has you rise in your frequency. And the last one, I say cultivate a practice of learning about God, but not just the
Religious
God.
like your own personal.
What I'm
deep-
talking about, the divinity within you. Because if we're made in his image, then there's no way I can look at in the mirror and say, I don't love myself. And then go outside and be like, oh my God, the stars and the planets and be in awe of all of that. And then look in the mirror and say, I hate myself. The disconnect is thinking that you're actually different. As above, so below, as within, so without. So to honor
Mm,
God with the
mm.
most reverence and respect is to honor yourself and be like, I am big.
You just did the four elements. So the last one's fire, the passion for the self and for God. The third one is the body, the discipline of commitment. The second one was vibration. That's all air. And the first one was the temple, like the respect for the physical. Is that the right order?
You did it backwards.
I did it backwards.
One, two,
Okay.
three, four,
See,
yeah.
I'm dyslexic. Okay, do it again. The first one is
Build your physical body,
yes,
raise your vibration,
yes, air,
cultivate a daily practice
Earth.
of meaningful disciplines,
yes.
and build a relationship with God and then the divinity within you.
Oh my goodness, I don't know how long we've been going, but I'm having a party. I want to drop in for a minute and let the audience, this is such an unusual podcast. It's activating the Aquarian futuristic way of bringing the child and the innocence and the love for God and life back, which requires a practice.
Yeah.
Lots of people don't, and this is part of what this lifetime, what's given me the gift of success, is discipline. But that's such a bad word. People will be listening going, I don't have any discipline.
Well, then, but those same people, I would challenge that, because if you get up every morning and you put on clothes,
And
that's
brush your teeth.
discipline. If you brush your teeth, that's discipline. If you eat food, that's discipline. If you feed your child, that is discipline. That is a bold-faced lie. You don't have an issue with discipline. It's where you transmute the energy.
Okay, write that down. You don't have an issue with discipline. It's where you transmute the energy, where you don't let the negative self, little teeny tiny thinking talk. That is the single handicap I see on our planet.
Yeah.
Is that because you're Jupiter on Mercury, you're so optimistic and so big and dramatic, and you have such a belief you're a superstar that I'm starting to think I am. He's kind of contagious. I mean, that's what I love about being around him. You cannot not stand next to this man and feel like you're either getting taller or more excited or clearer as a bell. I feel like I feel like Windex comes wherever Garrain is. And that's part of your gift to us and why I want to encourage people to follow you on Instagram and be in your field, because you're activating a futuristic version of the human. That's your soul. Aquarius
It's
Rising.
interesting that you say that, because when I went to Egypt for 15 days, and we went to 19 different pyramids, and then the second to the last pyramid we went to was the King's Chamber. We went in at 10 a.m. We got out at 2 p.m. I mean, no, we went in at 10 a.m. and got out at 2 a.m. So we were there all day long, singing, harmonizing everything. And I laid in the sarcophagus for about 20 minutes, and everybody's singing, and all of a sudden I got the download of the future of human.
What did you see?
I'm about to talk
I'm
about
all
it.
ears.
It's so funny. As we go into this great shakeup and we're in Earth 2.0, just think about cell phones. They go from iPhone 1, iPhone 2, iPhone 3. They get rid of the old camera. They find a new processing speed, get a new look and everything. So everything
Keeps
evolves
upgrading.
over time. What doesn't evolve is humans, because we've been given the dignity of choice. So you can be like, oh, I don't feel like waking up. I don't feel like, but the growing is the inherent part. But then the growing of your mind is the free will part.
Got it. Okay, so
So
now we're talking free will.
Yeah. So
Choice.
what I was given that showed me, because I saw this whole future of them putting so much money into humanizing robots and dehumanizing actual humans. And I was like, well, there can't be this much dark without the equivalent of light. So I know another variation of human is coming. I know it. I know it with all of my...
Me too.
Yes. So then, all of a sudden, I close my eyes and I'm hearing all of these these voices and everything. It's like voices, voices, voices. And then I come up and I was like, oh my God, the next variation of human that's going to thrive in this Earth 2.0 is someone with their throat chakra open and all of their energy centers aligned. And then it gave me the name of the human. It's called the harmonized human. One who is in harmony with nature as it was designed, as you were designed. So many people are out of balance of their natural, authentic self, their natural, authentic expression.
Not you.
And this is why the throat chakra is one of the most blocked chakras. Why? Think about this. The number one fear in the world,
Public speaking.
even more than death, is public speaking. That is a blocked throat chakra.
That's interesting.
So now, what I was given, the instructions I was given, teach people how to activate who they really are. Activate their throat chakras. And then I'm running in the morning, and all of a sudden this voice goes, Garrain, create voices of expression. This is your version of church without the judgment and shame. And the way that you pay tithes is you give away for free what I've given you. And then I created voices of expression so that I could equip people with the tools that are necessary
To open up their throat.
to open
So
up their
how does
throat.
our audience find voices of expression?
So it is something that is just starting, but those 4 things that I gave you,
I love those 4 things.
those 4 things that I gave you was a part of the curriculum of those 4 things to build the base in the body that can hold for that. So one thing I would tell everybody out there to do, go and take singing lessons and learn how to tone. Because sometimes you can hear a note and sing completely out of register. So that in itself is already blocked. So what you hear, you should be able to duplicate and repeat. There shouldn't be a crack or it shouldn't go down. So if you take singing lessons just to know how to tone, you will have a better breath stream going through your body. So you'll develop a better relationship with your breath, better relationship with your confidence, better relationship with how energy lands in your body, and then go and take dance classes. But not to like dance for fun, dance to learn about your body, how to move, because anytime you move, you're moving energy. And so if you can understand how to rhythmic move your body and how to tone, and not sing like Beyonce, but just be able to carry a note. What goes into creating a note is it starts as a vibration. It starts as a vibration. It emits a frequency. That frequency then passes through the vocal cords, and as it passes through the vocal cords, a sound comes out. And in the Bible, it says the beginning there was the word, but the Greek meaning for the word is sound and vibration. So when you are more in control of your sound and vibration, you're actually closer to home, to the beginning, to who you really are, to your most authentic state beyond everything that was.
See, you're such a kid. Can people start singing and dancing?
Right now.
Can you do it out of joy? That's what you're seeing. So part of the invitation of this podcast, I don't believe in astrology, is who cares about astrology? It's beautiful to have a language system that I can describe your character.
Yeah.
But what's much more interesting to me is the embodiment of a Cancer who used the futuristic impulse with harmony, Libra moon harmony. So
Yeah.
I'm simply giving you invitation in this. I've kind of stepped off all of my normal. Here's one of my questions I usually ask people.
That was the last time.
I know you always do this. When is the last time that you cried?
When was the last time that I cried? Let me see. At my retreat. I stared out at 94 people, all of them having levels of healing, because I'm not a healer, but I can facilitate an energy to rise into the healing frequency and then coordinate groupthink so people rise into that.
What made you cry?
And I watched people who didn't believe. I watched people who, just levels of trauma, Because I don't deal in trauma, I deal in frequency and vibration, because underneath every trauma is vibration. So if you can hit the right note, you can lift the trauma just like that. And so I watched the symphony of dark and light energy be alchemized and be transmuted, and it
That would
rose
make me
above.
cry.
It rose above racism. It rose above religion. It rose above gender. It literally transcended all of that, and we literally became the highest frequency of love.
Okay, so we all want to
And I
come
was
now.
in
How do we get
tears.
here? He was in tears. He's such a love bug, and he's got a new baby coming in, a beautiful wife who I'm in love with, and I'm spending this time with him in his house. And I just want to say the final question is, if you could meet someone who's dead or alive and have a really good conversation, who would it be?
Haha, I already know the answer.
I think I do. I think I know what you're going to say.
It would be me
Oh,
10 years from now.
oh, didn't see that coming.
Yeah, because if you take the time, those 10 years back, where I was living in my car, $200,000 in debt, having a vision, and then working towards that vision, the me that I saw back then, I followed the cookie crumbs. And then we look at my life now. Now imagine 10 years from now. I have no idea. And that excites me. I'm like, yo, what's it like, homie? Like, how Soul's gonna be 22 years old. I have a daughter who's 22 now, which means she's gonna be 32. Like, what's that like? Just give me one thing. Am I on track, off track? Like, give me. So having a conversation with 10 years out me, where 12 years back me tried to kill himself twice, and now fast forward 12 years and I'm breathing life into humanity. That's inspirational.
You're inspirational.
Oh,
This is
thank
the
you.
craziest podcast ever. Let it just be known that beings can take the futuristic option of what the new human harmonizing will be into the here and now. If we follow those that have done it, which is what you do for us, you inspire us and you're an example, the precedent has been set. You're an example of what we could all do if we have the courage to look in the mirror and see God. That's the mystery. You've got the gift of
It's
seeing
the
your reflection.
courage. It's the courage. The only thing that separates me from a lot of people is I trust. I don't casually trust.
That makes me want to
I
cry.
deeply trust. I don't love with boundaries. I love without boundaries. And I truly, if it comes in, I let it. If it goes, I let it. And that level of trust, I don't question it.
Can you imagine? It's making me cry. Can you imagine if we knew trust, which I would love to be in your club, because I do live with such a deep, profound. And that was the last thing I want to say is being with you in Hawaii. This was so fun for me because I am obviously intuitive and I pierce people like you do with your eyes. And I was watching you the whole time. And I was watching Garrain. We were in this whole social setting and we were doing work together and we were going out to the ocean and we were going in the car and you sat like a tree. I was like, he's a Cancer with Aquarius Libra. He's double Aries. He's got the gift of the gap. But his energetic body was so calming, like so steady Eddie. And I wondered if you got that from being in jail or you just came that way.
No, there's Cancers who are in the shell. And I'm so far removed from the shell, but I still have the tendencies. So a Cancer that is so far removed from his shell, I've traveled around the world. I'm like well cultured, and I've gotten more people reps in person probably than most people in the world. So I've got to chance to experience myself inside of
Humans.
everyone. So because I have so many people reps, a Cancer that is so far removed out of the shell literally has access to all of the signs.
He just made that up.
No, I didn't.
Oh, that's true.
I've always
I
felt
can
that.
see the universality. Cancer is the sign that is the ultimate mom and dad that gives everyone the embrace. Dalai Lama, double Cancer, the symbol for our planet of the father who meditates for everyone's peace. That his ultimate dream is may all sentient beings come to peace. And that's what I see. You're right. That's the high. And you know what? In Alice Bailey, in esoteric law, which is what I teach, Cancer, this is so interesting. Cancer is the last sign of the zodiac to incarnate. that if you can master the human condition with the sensitivity you have, without turning your heart down, without keeping your heart wide open, then you've mastered the whole point of being here, which is to keep your heart open no matter what. Good job.
I like that.
Love that story. Okay, well, there we just did a podcast that we didn't, this is an unusual one, but he's Aquarius Rising as we expected. I get to have the next few days, I know, and he's so beautiful.
My friend.
How do I get to say thank you? Everyone's just smiling, wishing they could give you a hug. You've done so much for this planet, and I'm the one giving voice to my gratitude for bringing in the future and showing us what it is to really trust and love your wife and your children with all you've got.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. We want to keep this conversation going with you, so please subscribe to our podcast and leave a rating and review to make sure you never miss an episode. Remember, climate activist by day, human by night. Send Debra a DM on Instagram at Debra Silverman Astrology and visit DebraSilvermanAstrology.com. And we're going to leave you like we leave every single episode. Make it your mission to change the world.